believe it. You're all here. You're all here on Friday period 5 for my recruitment and selection process little podcast, which is amazing. I think this is slightly longer than the others. There's 16 slides on this. So let's see if we can pop it off in less than 15 minutes. Archie, cue PowerPoint slide. This is topic 3 of 16, by the way. So HR, human resources, that's the functional area. There's another podcast on functional areas. Feel free to have a look. I think it's functional areas and organisational structures and a PowerPoint slide to go with it. But this is all to do with functional areas in a business. Clearly, larger businesses have functional areas. So if it's a small sole trader or partnership, it's not going to have functional areas. So these functional areas and human resources are normally in companies that employ over 100 people, normally LTDs or big charities or whatever. Anyway, so we know HR stands for human resources. Could be a 2-mark question. Human resources deals with everything to do with people. People are important because they work in the business. You have to look after the people. If you don't look after the people, you won't have any customers to be looked after by. So we're going to look at the function, one of the functions of HR is recruitment and selection. And recruitment and selection is broken into 3 stages. The first stage is a needs analysis. Does the job still need to exist? Do we need to employ somebody when somebody goes? Or can we get rid of the job or give the job to somebody else? Needs analysis is where you start. Once you decide you do have a job to fill because somebody's left, you then think about advertising it. Am I going to advertise it internally, inside the business, or externally, outside the business? And depending on what the post is, you might decide where to advertise it. Whether it's on YouTube, videos, it might be on social media, it might be on Facebook, it might be in the newspaper. So small businesses will pick cheap things to advertise, bigger companies will advertise it elsewhere. And then the third stage is getting people to apply for the job and selecting the best applicant. Cheers, Archie. So if you look at stage 1 first, what the worker will look like and do. So if we're going to start thinking about the job, and do we need that job, we've got to ask ourselves some following questions. How many workers does a business really need to employ? Can we get rid of some? Can we save money? How many will be full-time, part-time or 0 hours? Because the 0-hour contracts are those people that have no hours in their contract and hope every week they're going to get some work. The third question is, what kind of staff will be needed? Are they qualified or unqualified staff? Skilled or unskilled staff? And what experience will they need to do the job well? We then need to ask ourselves the question, when are the workers going to be needed? Is it during the day? Is it at night? Is it at the weekends? Is it overnight? So you've got to make sure you know when those people are needed before you start planning that recruitment. You've also got to think about what day of the week they need to be employed. Do you need them midweek only, Monday to Friday, 5 from 7? If you need them 5 from 7, is that 5 including or not including weekends? Or do you just need them weekends only, Saturday and Sunday? So you've got to decide when that work is going to be needed. You've also got to decide on the start date, because you don't want to do what some companies do and mix up the start date. Somebody could be going off on maternity leave and they start somebody before that person leaves. So you're paying 2 people if you don't get the employment start date right for the same amount of work. And there's only one job, so you're costing them money. Where will they work? Are they going to work in Oxted? Are they going to work in East Grinstead? Are they going to work in another part of the county? So you've got to specify where they're going to work, because if somebody applies for a job in Oxted and you say, oops, got that wrong, you're going to be working in Bluewater, that's a long way to go every day if you don't have a car. And finally, once you've answered all those questions, you've then got to create the 2 documents that are going to get you the right person. One document's called the job description, all about the job, would you believe? And the other document is called the Person Specification, all about the person, would you believe? And those 2 documents will hopefully find you the right worker for that position. Very crudely and quickly, for 2 marks, if they ask you in the exam question, what is a job description, all you have to say is, this is a document. As you can see there, that lists the duties and responsibilities that the worker must perform. If it's not in that job description, you can't get the person to do it afterwards. So it's important that you want that person to do right to start off with, otherwise you are seriously wasting that person's time, because they're going to laugh at you. Q Archie. The next definition for 2 marks could be explain what a person specification is. All you have to say, ladies and gentlemen, is this document states the knowledge, 1 mark, the qualifications, 1 mark, the experience, 1 mark, and the personal qualities and skills, 1 mark, that the worker needs to have in order to do the job well. And a person specification, as you can see there, has got all the knowledge, qualities, qualifications, experience and skills listed on that side, and it's broken into 2 halves. Is it essential? Do you have to have those things? If you don't have those things, you ain't going to get shortlisted. Or is it desirable? Would you like the person to have a driving licence? Would you like the person to be able to drive a minibus? Would you like the person to speak more than 1 language? Because if it's essential, it needs to be in that box. If it's desirable, then it might not be a deal breaker. So those 2 documents are what are going to get you the best worker. Q Archie. Now we're at the designing stage for the advert. And if somebody says to you for 4 marks, how do you design an advert to recruit the right candidate for this position? All you have to say that a job advert needs to have enough information in it to attract the right candidate. It needs to be a taster to attract people to apply for that job. But it also has to comply to the law. So you can't ask for men only. You can't ask for people under a certain age. You can't say, I want a blonde, blue-haired person, a female, to apply for my reception position, because those things are illegal. So you've got a podcast on the legislation, so that job description has to whet people's appetite to attract the right people to get that job. If it's a small company, you can advertise in a small local paper. If you're going for a managing director or a director role, you can advertise in the national press, because you want to filter out more people to choose from that position. If you're a small company and you're going for a trainee, you might even not put it in the paper. You might advertise it on a notice board, put it on your Facebook page, put it on your website. People will then, and it should say how you get information about the job description and person spec, people will then, if it says what you're looking for, only apply for that job if they think that's suitable for them. People don't waste their time applying for jobs they've got no chance of getting, but if you write a bad advert, you will have lots of people applying for it thinking they can get that job, and you've got to deal with those people applying. So the advert needs to attract and encourage people to apply, tell them how to apply, and outline the key features of the job, including what qualifications they have to have, what duties they'll be doing, what experience they need, and what salary details you're going to pay them. It also needs to say how many hours a week, where they're going to work, and then the contact details, because you can't get hold of John Meeks if you don't have to email John Meeks, call John Meeks, or write John Meeks a letter. So that's a good example of a bad job advert. Q Archie. And then it's decision time. Are you going to go for an internal applicant? This is a typical 9-mark question. Or are you going to go for an external applicant? If you're going to go internal, you're not going to advertise externally. You're just going to advertise on the notice board or on the website, or not even the website. You can advertise within the business. If you're going externally, you can advertise externally. So you all know by now that an internal job applicant is normally a position that's filled by somebody who already works in the business. Internal is quick, is easy, and cheap to advertise. It's also a good way to motivate people, because it tells people in the organisation that they've got a good chance of getting promoted if they work hard. So as well as being quick, cheap and easy, it ticks lots of boxes, because the person already knows how the company works, the person already knows what the aims and objectives of the business are, and internal people already know that it's good motivational technique to get people to want to work harder to get promoted. So internal's great for certain jobs, in certain companies, if it's appropriate. But the 9-mark question would expect you to argue for and against internal, for and against external, and generally make a decision in what's right. Don't make a decision unless you incorporate a case study. So if you're looking for a trainee, I'm guessing you're going to go external schools and colleges. If you're looking for a manager, you're going to probably look internal for a supervisor to promote. If you're going for a managing director or a finance director, I'm guessing you're going to have to go outside the business to collect somebody and find somebody new with fresh ideas. So recruitment, whether it's internal or external, is all driven by the job role and the company that you're trying to fill a gap in. Q Archie. So we know that external recruitment is from outside the organisation. We also know that we need to do that if there's no one in the organisation that can do the job. We also, if we're going external, know that we're going to get people with fresh thinking, new ideas. But we also know that if we go external, it could upset people in the workplace who want to be promoted. But generally speaking, there's more people than we need to employ, and external is only going to compound that. Cheers, Archie. So to get the 9-mark questions on this one, I've already given you lots of clues. You need to probably talk about some of these things. Management normally only post adverts when jobs become available, and then when they become available, they have to decide whether to recruit internally or externally. You need to have some thoughts about that. The decision to recruit generally depends on what the business is doing. If the business is going well, then the managers know there is someone that may want to recruit internally, if the business is going well. If they're going internally, it's good for morale, because other people can be recruited internally from the organisation. However, it might cause problems if they are applying for people that don't get promoted and upset by the decision. So sometimes it can be demotivating in that way. However, this is quite important. If the business is not doing well, then the manager might think it's time to get some fresh people to come in to liven things up a bit. Because if the business isn't doing well, it's not doing well for a reason. So that's an opportunity. If the case study says this business is struggling, then think nothing about it, get some fresh blood in. Because new talent and fresh ideas are going to obviously improve the business and stop people getting complacent and sloppy. So if the business is doing well, go internal. If the business is not going well, get some fresh blood in. Next slide. You've also got to decide where you're going to advertise. We've talked about that. If you're going to go for professional people, you might go in a professional magazine. If we're going for unprofessional people, we might go in a local job centre. Depending on how many people you need, you might decide to advertise in a job centre on your website. You've got to obviously say in the advert where you're going to advertise, where you're going to be, and where you're going to work. And you've also got to decide how much money you want to spend. Because the job centre, sole trader, is free. So you don't have to spend any money on job advertising. Whereas, if you want to go for lots of people like Tesco's, then you're probably going to put it on their website, because you're going to need hundreds of people every month. And that website will attract hundreds of people. If, however, you need a company director, you're probably going to advertise in the Financial Times, the Telegraph on a Thursday, or the Guardian on a Friday. So, depending on what you're going to go for, you have to decide where you're going to advertise. If you say local paper for a director, that's going to make you look silly. If you say national press for a trainee, that's going to make you look silly. Next slide, Archie. And here we've got different media you can look at. Local newspaper for local people. National newspaper for national people. And then the job centres for free for sole traders. And then finally, if you also want some more free, because this is quite important for those 9-mark questions, you might want to put the advert on the internet on the back of your website, because that's free too. And last but not least, even more free is word of mouth. Cheers, Archie. And then we get to the selection process. The selection process is not that hard if you're measuring people with your job description and your person specification. So selecting the right people becomes very straightforward if you're doing that. And when we're selecting the right people, then the applicant might go through more than one hoop. You might actually get them, first of all, you might get the company to actually filter out the rubbish, measuring the applicant's CV and job letter application against the job description and person spec. Those two documents we started with. The second stage would obviously involve the applicant being shortlisted to come in for an interview. That interview has to go well. Everybody has to have the same interview, the same questions. And as Ms McNamara knows from all the interviewing, those people, those candidates, will go through the same process. Once they've passed the interview stage, you might get them to do an activity. It could be a test, it could be a challenge, or it could be a lesson observation in school. And then you're measuring each applicant against the same tests for that same job role. So you're in a great position now to see who's right for that job in that organisation. Cue Archie. So I think you know everything about this topic now for your exam next week. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, is how to get the 9 marks, the evaluation marks, on that big question. And all I'm going to say to you is, selecting the right person in the process is all about thinking. You're not guessing. People apply and might tell you a load of rubbish when they apply. It's a tricky process getting the right person. But that right person shouldn't be chance. It should be carefully thought out. You filter the applications and CVs by the job description and person specification. You've then got the problem of actually trying to find out who you're going to shortlist. So you might want to check references, whittle your 20 applicants down to half a dozen or less, and then get them to come in and check their skills against some physical tests. You then get the opportunity to meet them, and you can start putting the pieces of the jigsaw together so you can see who you like as a person. Is that going to person fit in the manager's team? Is that person going to fit in the culture of the organisation? So it's not by chance. And for those people that go for the A star, that said, it all comes down at the end of the day to gut reaction, gut instinct, and people doing the recruitment should, by now, be able to pick the right person. I think we've finished our chat, haven't we? Oh no, last thing, I forgot about it before. 2-mark question. Recruitment agencies. If you don't know what they are, Michaela, pull yourself together. If you don't know what they are, recruitment agencies are people that headhunt people to get the top people for the top jobs. It's expensive. It's not for a sole trader. It might not even be for a partnership. The fee can be as much as 12 to 25% of the salary for the year. But if you're a big company, PLC or LTD, and you want a quality player, you might just want to use a recruitment agency. Are we done, Archie?
No.
No. These are my favourite. Employment agencies are absolutely fantastic. They're free. And employment agencies are free for a reason. It's a job centre. Sole traders are definitely going to use it. So make sure, if you've got an opportunity to find people for free, you mention employment agencies. Are we finished, Archie?
No.
No. I'm going to leave you with this challenge. There are 10 steps, I'd say 11 steps in the recruitment process. In your own time, see if you can make a list or draw a flow diagram over what they are. Recruitment and selection, I think we did it in 20 minutes. Great revision tool. Thank you.